Good morning and good evening. Welcome to the Circle of Harmony, where we are taking the topic Death, a Wake-Up Call. And this is our second session. So it was a very beautiful and expanding session for me last week. And let's see how it goes today. And before we begin, I hope that with the help of that mantra written by Jagat Guru Adi Shankaracharya. It's like very beautiful where it says, I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this. I hope we were able to ingather our consciousness and yet taking a few more moments to bring our attention fully here. It's a serious topic, a topic usually associated with pain, gloom, or rejection that I don't want to talk about it. So talking about it, looking at it, and seeing what changes without fear. So yeah, invoking Sri Aurobindo and Mother's presence and grace as we explore the topic of death and how it can be a beautiful wake-up call for us, how it must be a beautiful wake-up call for us. Aspiring for flexibility, receptivity, and expansion. Thank you. Yeah. So last week we were taking up some quotes from the incarnate word on death. So we can start from there, or if there's any reflection, any sharing from from everybody, but from the people who were here or who have seen the recording, any concern, we can even start with that. So if anybody wants to unmute and share, that would be great. Otherwise, I'll share and we'll go through more quotes before we take up other things. Okay. Okay, so out of all the, on the where we had read the passages from that page, this is one thing that I felt was interesting that we could take up, and then we'll go to other things. So if anybody is willing, they can read it slowly for us.
Yeah, I can read.
Yeah, thank you, Sai.
If you wish to escape from death, you must not bind yourself to anything perishable. One can conquer that alone which one fears not, and he who fears death has already been vanquished by death.
So nothing new, nothing that we have not heard. But a lot of times we read things, but they don't go in. We hear things, but they don't go in. And again, hearing it, refreshed, it maybe, sometimes some things do take home, take a place inside us. So it says that if you wish to escape from death, you must not bind yourself to anything perishable. So it's a little bit funny too, because everything that I associate myself with, bind myself with, is perishable. And here I am told that I have to stop binding myself to anything perishable when my whole life is about temporary, transient, and perishable. So maybe that shows us some way. And the second sentence, one can conquer that alone, which one fears not. And he who fears death has already been vanquished by death. So if I'm scared of something, I've already lost, is what it says. And that's true. So just starting with this. And at any time, if there is any, reflection, share it, please unmute and we'll be happy to discuss it, take things that way. Okay. There is this beautiful poem, Life and Death by Sri Aurobindo. Don't know how much we understand it or we can, but we can slowly at least read it for the beauty of it. Whatever goes in, whatever doesn't, doesn't. So if anybody is willing, very slowly taking a time if we can go through the words. Yes, Jagan, thank you.
Thank you. The whole poem, correct? Life, death, death, life. The words have led for ages. Our thought and consciousness and firmly seemed two opposites, but now long hidden pages are opened, liberating truths undreamed. Life, death, death, life. The words have led for ages. Our thought and consciousness and firmly seemed two opposites. But now long hidden pages are opened, liberating truths undreamed. Life only is, or death is life disguised. Life, a short death, until by life we are surprised.
Thank you, Jagan.
Ma'am, if I can ask you something, uh, the first, the first four lines, what is the correct way of reading? Because when I'm reading it, I don't feel like I'm pausing at the right place.
I think you read them fine. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
You know how it starts with this thing that how there always is, right? These things do come together. They're often thought of together, or how it's considered opposite. That if I were to ask my child or somebody, what is the opposite of birth or life? And they'll say death. So these words have led for ages, as if this is what we are leading, going towards. Our thought and consciousness and firmly seemed two opposites, right? Like in our thoughts and in our consciousness, they do appear as opposites, but now long hidden pages are opened, liberating truths undreamed. So the things that we could not even dream would happen in our dreams, it's here. They are open, liberating truths. So here the last two lines, which are really beautiful. Life only is, or death is life disguised. Life a short death, until by life we are surprised. So it's like, in a way, death, like the first sentence says that death is as if just not there. It's all just life, right? Life only is, or death is life disguised. The death is as if, it's life disguised as death, and life a short death, until by life we are surprised. So it's like when we actually die, then we are like, oh, it was just an episode, right? Like the same thing that happens in when we wake up In Upanishads, right, they talk about that how when you wake up from the dream stage, especially if it was a bad dream, you wake up and you're like, oh, thank God it was a dream. And then you move, with your regular business as if nothing has happened. And similarly, it is said that when we leave the body, we wake up like, oh, it was just another birth. Oh, thank God, it wasn't anything serious. And how seriously we live, obviously, right? Crying in pain, wanting so much that this conversation, this thing sounds silly, but that's what they clearly say, that as one wakes up from a dream and say brushes it off, similarly one wakes up from death and brushes it off. So just reading this again, life only is, or death is life disguised. Life a short death, until by life we are surprised. So how life they're calling as death, actually a small break from our bigger expansive life when we come here for experiences. Yeah, anything is welcome anytime, just repeating myself. Yes, Pranavji.
Yeah, actually, life, last sentence, life a short death, and this, where life is a surprise. That means what? That means that some excitement is needed or something uh, happened which excites her to surprises us. Otherwise, what is the last sentence? How it is connected actually? That is something I don't understand. What I understand from my perspective is that life must give you some surprises, some excitement, something which is not routine, not very routine. Then that is one dimension which gives kind of passion to live. Otherwise, it becomes a routine, mundane kind of routine kind of situation. Is it so that there's the importance of some surprises? Otherwise, it becomes a little dull. And one is like a dead one. See, that means what surprise. The thing is this: excitement or surprises or some life-changing events that probably gives some added value to the life. Otherwise, it is just I get it this way. What is your kind of take from this? Because this sentence is a little different from the earlier. Yeah, and bring a new dimension to the like how we connect. Yes.
Yeah, Pranavji, the way I am seeing it is what I was sharing, that here it is being told, right? Like I shared that in Upanishads, they say that when you wake up, you are like, oh, it was just a small episode. It wasn't really that serious. It was just a small thing, one birth. So here, when they say life, what I'm living right now, say for example, is actually a short thing. It is actually, my thing, I am bigger than so much. Now I have been born as this body, as this role, and I am on this realm. So this is actually a discontinuity. And when this ends, I go back to the bigness, the expanse that I am. So when actually it ends, we are surprised that, oh, this was life. This was never the life, but that big one would be the life. So what I think, this reminds us, like it's reminding me of the question that Janak had asked, right? Raja Janak, if you know this story, that he had a dream that he was a beggar and he's begging, and I don't know, somebody finally, and he's so hungry, so hungry, so hungry, and finally somebody put something in his, whatever it's called, the begging bowl, it has a specific name, and then the begging bowl breaks and the food goes, it drops, and he's wondering what has happened, oh my God. And then he wakes up. And when he wakes up, because he always had that spiritual bent, he asked, he asked his gurus, he asked the saints in his kingdom that what is true? Was the dream true? Am I a beggar? Is this true that I am the king? Because when it was happening, it was appearing really true, right? In our dreams, especially. Some dreams appear to be really true. While we are dreaming, there's no falseness about them. So saint after saint after saint answered, he didn't get satisfied. And finally, when Ashtavakra came and he put this question in front of Ashtavakra, so he said, Rajan, na wo sach hai, na ye sach hai. So neither was that dream true, nor is this life true, you are more. So similar to that, in this line, in this poem, Sri Aurobindo, where he says that life a short death, until by life we are surprised that, oh, it was just another small thing. They say that our life is not even a page, it's just maybe maximum a page in the book of our life, the soul's journey. Each birth is not a chapter even, it's just a page. So those lines, it's kind of just making us think, that how big we think the things are, how big we make them. And yet it's nothing, it's a really small thing in the book of life. That's how I see it, welcoming more reflections and thoughts on this. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess that's about it. And if I read more on this, Pranabji, I'll share it on the group. There would be more commentaries on that. That was just my reflection. Yeah. Okay, so we'll see a very short video by Mingyur Rinpoche, and we'll see what he has to say. It's interesting. So, fun.
I think that death and dying is really important because
I'm sorry, Vanessa.
I think that death and dying is really important because we're all going to die anyway. The more we try to ignore, we try to stop the fear of death and dying, it grows. And it grows underground and it will hunt us. But if you know how to face it and transform it, actually, the death is really useful. And for me, it's a great, enlightening, great kind of like benefit for me. So there's a lot of great insights comes when you're really facing the death and dying. So, for example, for me, when I really accept the fear of death and dying, then it really gives me that my mind become more open, actually, more free, and at the same time, the normal this what I call fixed mind, the frozen mind, easy to let go. The nature of looking at death and dying, try to learn about death and dying, and use that as meditation. That has automatically a lot of power to really subdue the fixed mind, the misconception of seeing the reality.
Yeah. So I really liked when, Mingyur Rinpoche, where he said that if we bring that into context, when we bring the reality of it, the reality of our impermanence and of everything else in context in our everyday, how it helps us let go, right? How it helps us let go of the small things, our rigidities around things, and how we can then just be more open. At least that's what I heard. That how it's so helpful to be aware of it, to know, to accept its existence. So then you can see the small as small, because otherwise, in my rigidity and my smallness, the small appears to be really, really big.
It's all connected with the attachment we have, degree of attachment. See, anything, we have to control our level of attachment, the way we can. Because the thing is, out of the different, interactions we have, it all depends how much degree of attachment actually that sometimes. So this is probably a message he's trying to give. But in our, I would say, people like us who live in a family situation, there are always certain, relationships where there is a large degree of attachment. Maybe, some mother, son, father, maybe daughter, so, and versus the father. So there will be, see, we have maybe hundreds of relationships that we have. But then, probably the message he's trying to give that we have to be, reduce those kind of, relationships where we're attached and also end up being dispassionate, which is, I would say, it's a challenge, at least for people like who are living in a, no, social family. Family means like a typical family who are having some obligations, some responsibilities, which could be called routine and worldly, but then they bind us. Because spiritual leaders, like what they're all single people, like they are, in the sense that they kind of, have developed high degree of detachment. That is one thing that I was trying to connect. For us, probably it is a bigger challenge because we are in a situation, we are more, kind of obliged to meet, certain responsibilities, which are maybe called temporary, but then this temporary means it could be 10 years, 5 years, 20 years relationship. It's all kind of a thinking process there, like what we call temporary. It is for a day, it is for a week, it is for a year, 20 years, something like that. So when those relationships are broken, like husband-wife relationship, I saw with father, for example. When his wife died, he said he was with me 60 years, 60. So that kind of relationship they take up, like even people who are very much normally unattached, they develop some kind of relationship where it is kind of. So in nutshell, I would say attachment or concept of temporary or permanent, it's all relative. It's all up to us what we call as temporary. Because this is what we are looking at. Because yeah, it is a kind of I would say a task or a challenge or kind of test for us to live in kind of in a situation where we have low degree of attachment. But stories like Janak, yes, there are mythological stories. They are, yes, we have. But then, if you look at our average human beings like us, that is the kind of a journey, I would say. Then, with that perspective, probably it is something like for everybody, it could be different because, kind of. What I'm to communicate is the concept of temporary or permanent time space could be, and it could be one's own definition, something like that.
Yeah, Pranaji, I don't know why, but I find it really hard to understand. There's something with your mic, I don't know, or it's my headphones, but when you speak, the voice is not sharp. So I miss some things in between, and I apologize for that. Yeah. But I did get the gist of what you were saying, of course, about attachment and impermanence. Yeah. Sometimes I feel that in my cleverness, if I can take 4 steps, for example, that if I have the capability of taking 4 steps, but I know that my journey is of 40,000 steps. And sitting here, I say that, 40,000 steps not possible for me. So I don't take the 4 steps that I can take because I say, 40,000 are possible, hey me, this is not me. Those are for the sages, those are for the people with excessive fitness levels. So I don't take the 4 steps that I can take. And the truth is, like again, talking from experience, that when I take the 4 steps, I see more light and I get the energy to take 4 more, 4 more, 4 more. And I keep progressing. So even if in this life, I might just end up taking 40 steps, although I thought I had to take 40,000, that also is my perception. I'm 40 steps closer to where I had to be than where I was thinking that it's not up to me. So what I understood from what Mingyur Rinpoche was saying was that if I accept that yes, death is a part of me, it is a reality, it is going to happen. Can happen today, or like you were saying, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. But when it comes, boy, it comes like, it doesn't wait for you. The silliest thing I think I've heard in my life is that I don't even have time to die. There's a phrase in English where we say this. And if you've ever had that experience, talking from experience, yes, Chetan,
James
what?
Bond's dialogue. No
Acha,
time to die.
okay, yeah, no time to die. But it's an English thing, right? People use it. When it hits you, it stops everything, right? You don't need time to die, and it just comes and sweeps you off. Yeah, so if I can bring more of that possibility that yes, it is a reality, because I keep ignoring it, I live like I'm permanent. So many examples. There's this beautiful example that how somebody had visited a sage in the forest. A traveler, I don't know, found a sage in a forest who had a small cottage, and when he was invited inside, he saw there was nothing much in the cottage. So he asked the traveler asked the sage that, where is everything or anything? Where is your furniture? And the sage asked him, where is yours? So the traveler said, I'm just a traveler, I'm traveling. And the sage said, so am I. So, it might sound big, but how am I living life? There's another thing that it's like, tayari 100 baras ki, 2 pal ki khabar nahi. So the way I live, I plan, I die for my plans. It's like I am here forever. And yet, in a second, I could be gone. I don't know about my next breath. So this is the reality. It's not something that I just say that feels weird or good or interesting, or I say for just some reaction and action. Yeah, just hold on one second. Yeah, my apology. Yeah. So it is true that attachment, getting unattached, is difficult for us, and yet there are levels of stepping back, and whatever I can do, I must do. And I don't know if I shared it last time. I don't know. Although it's just a week, I'm forgetting that my brother had passed on quite early in life, and it was an accident. It was like suddenly out of the blue. It was a lightning strike and everything. Everybody was taken by surprise. And my elder sister, who was very, 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 like he was a son to her. So she was very badly shaken and upset. So then my brother visited her in a dream. And my sister, who was sitting angry in the dream, she asked him that, why did you go? And the brother, he said that, are you here? Matlab, you have to stay here. So the conversation was in Hindi ke kyun chala gaya? And he said, kya aapne yahi rehna hai? And this is it, this small exchange, which was supposed to be a dream, but it felt very real, helped her just understand that, oh, yeah, life is more. Yeah, I too am temporary. You know how in the poem that we had written that I too am temporary, just like you, standing behind you in the same queue. So when this happens, or whenever I can see how attachments cause me pain, I step back, I step back, I step back. Mystics and masters this ask us to remember death every moment, every day if possible. So that, when you get up in the morning, being thankful that, okay, you've got another day, and kind of remembering and telling ourselves that today could be the day I could be gone. So let me live a good day. When we say this, it sounds pretty woke, यार इसकी क्या जरूरत है? But when we start doing it, when we meet people, when we are parting, if we are meeting, firstly, if we know that, okay, you don't know when you will meet them next, if you will meet them next. If we do things, there is a depth, there is a presence, there is an expansion, there is more life in our lives, because we just keep taking life for granted, right? Like you said, we know it's temporary, but it could be 10, 15, 20 years. So let me just live as if I have my whole life and it's endless. I think if we do value life more, if we keep the presence of it, the possibility of it ending any day, which is a big possibility or a small possibility, but it is a possibility. There is more depth in my life, and it's not just lying or me playing with words.
Yes, you are right. Actually, what I was trying to say only, it's for the people like average human people, like we are worldly people having a family and kind of routine responsibility. It's a little more challenging. This is what I want to say.
Yes, but
Because
we are
we
not
have
ordinary now, right? Like if we are on the path, if we are seeking, I have to accept, not
yeah,
accept, but expect more from me, right? I have grace, I have blessing in my life. So I don't have to limit myself by saying that, oh, I'm just, a limited family person. I'm a mother, I'm a son, I'm a father. What do I do? So if I live a bigger, more honest life, that also is needed by the family, right? So let me be that light that can show everybody the way. So expecting more from ourselves and knowing that I'm more than these roles, these titles, this body, this mind. Even if I don't believe it, even if I have not experienced it, if I just start accepting it, yes, it must be true. If we are told this is true, that also shifts something inside us. And slowly we start getting bigger, more deeper experiences just by shifting our belief patterns, our perspective. We must try that. And anytime a thought tells me, oh, you are limited, you stop, you don't need to do that. This is for a Nanak, this is for a Kabir, this is for a Jesus. I must say that, stop. I don't believe you. I have my own journey and I'll do what I'm capable of. So we can answer back. We can tell ourselves that, nahi, chup. I have a journey and I have to progress, and I must do that counter talking to myself when needed. But I appreciate what you're saying, and that is the ground reality for us, but it doesn't have to be that way, is all I'm saying. I'm not saying anything that you're saying is not right. It is absolutely right. And yet, that is also true that I'm more. Yeah. Anybody else on this or anything that we have read or discussed so far?
I've been trying to search for this line in Savitri. I couldn't find it, but it tells about the life and death and how it's a path between the cradle and the grave under the shining star. But I couldn't get the exact context of it. But for me especially, um, I I'm very much attached to my mother, from the beginning. And always this, it's not right now, but when I moved abroad, there was a feeling all the time. On the phone, I would tell her that, when you cross the road, look on both sides. When you do something, look on both sides. Don't talk on the phone while you're on the road. You are very, you don't see how people are driving. Be careful. Try to walk on the right side because the traffic comes to in your direction and all these things. And I would think that, I love my mother so much. I thought that I love her, that's why I do all this. But slowly, at least I feel that, although there is love, there is also a dependency I find of me on her. She is my ground. She is my emotional ground. And, losing her, takes the, ground off my, under the ground under my feet, and I feel that I'm going to crash. So that is where the I'm losing my peace. Like that is where I was losing my peace. I wouldn't say I am. Now the aspiration is to to find the ground in something that would not leave. And who what doesn't leave? The mother doesn't leave. The divine doesn't leave. It's I have in Savitri Sri Aurobindo, while he is calling for the force, or even for Ashwapati, the body just becomes a wandering shell. That's it. Because the soul is aspiring for something much higher. It doesn't matter now if this body or any other body is around. So what I am trying to do from my side is to find my ground in the divine, to hold on to something, not just like go to a temple and pray, not like that. To hold on to something, to have a goal that almost seems impossible. That like I will not share what the goal is, but it almost seems impossible. But yet it is possible because there are so many things that I can call for that it's possible. So for someone, let's say I do not find that goal before someone or in my my close ones leave their body. But even then, that pain of leaving, I have two options, you know, either to sit and cry and again find the ground in something mortal, or otherwise find the ground in something higher. So for me, the like for me, the quest is to find that infinity, that where I can see and I can say that, I am living for you. This is there. I love them, but my attachment is only with you, nothing else. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Jackson. Yeah, whenever I hear it, I know I must have shared it before. Whenever I hear this, that, somebody, what will I do if somebody I love I lose, and we all have, we all will. You know that Kabir Ji's song in which there is this line that, बिलक बिलक के चिड़िया रोए, बिछड़ गई मेरी जोड़ी, कहे कबीर सुनो भय साधो, जिन जोड़ी तिन तोड़ी. So widow is beating her chest and she's crying that, my partner has been snatched from me, has been taken away from me. And a Kabir is standing there telling her that, why don't you see that the one who gave has taken? So I don't even thank for giving. I don't, like, when I meet somebody, when I'm with somebody who I really cherish, I'm not usually actively saying how grateful I am that I have you in my life or thanking God. But when something is taken, it feels like I had an entitlement, right? That was mine and that is taken. But what is ours really? So when we hear this, and it's not something new, but again, when we hear a Kabir saying this, it really has the potential of changing our perspective that yes, till it's needed, I will be given. Till it's needed, my hand will be held. But when it's time for me to leave all hands, they will be taken away, and they must, because I'm here for growth, I'm here for progress, and life is more than what I can see. So, difficult things again, of course, it's a difficult topic, but we are here. So, that means we are ready for a bit more than what the usual, most of the time, a lot of time, the sessions also are just mere entertainment. But death cannot be a topic of entertainment, I think, or it shouldn't be. But it can be a topic of expansion, growth, progress, of being more than how we take ourselves or life to be. Yeah, inviting more reflections, anything, remembering that this is a sharing circle. Any concerns, any comments we have, please to unmute and share, because then it becomes a learning experience for all of us, because we are all, walking each other home, as Rumi says. Okay. So we'll take up more readings from Sri Aurobindo. There are a little bit more this time in this session, but there's so much light, of course, in all the topics and this one too, that I couldn't stop. It seems we must read what is being said. So it's on birth and life, and there is this passage which I thought was good. So if anybody is willing, if we can read this from in a general way, and you can stop wherever you feel we need to stop, and we can take it up. Or otherwise, it ends. It's a small one. Yeah.
Okay, I'll read. In a general way, a life is only one brief episode in a long history of spiritual evolution, in which the soul follows the curve of the line set for the earth, passing through many lives to complete it. It is an evolution out of material inconscience to consciousness and on towards the divine consciousness, from ignorance to divine knowledge, from darkness through half lights to light, from death to immortality, from suffering to the divine bliss. Suffering is due first to the ignorance, secondly, to the separation of the individual consciousness from the divine consciousness and being. A separation created by the ignorance, when that ceases, when one lives completely in the divine and no more in one's separated smaller self, then only suffering can altogether erase. Now I'll stop here.
Yeah, thank you. All together, see. So just taking it up a little bit more in depth. So here it is being said that in a general way, a life is only one brief episode in a long history of spiritual evolution in which the soul follows the curve of the line set for the earth, passing through many lives to complete it. So this is, we have already discussed it, and yet it's really good to see it again. That's what we were doing when we were discussing the poem, right? That how life is more and this is just a pause. So the same line, almost the same line. So it is an evolution out of material unconscious, right? So we were the stone, we were minerals, we were plants, we were animals. So evolution out of material inconscience to consciousness and on towards the divine consciousness. So when I say I'm limited, or this is not a possibility for me, or if I use the word that I have a goal, but it's impossible, right? Then I am saying that, oh, this, I am just this. So see, if somebody would tell you that, okay, you were a stone, like Rumi says, you were a stone. So Jagan, if somebody would tell you you were a stone, and if you were actually a stone right now, and somebody can say in, I don't know how many years you will become Jagan, would you say it's a possibility?
No,
A stone consciousness becoming a living human being. Does it seem like a possibility
no,
to you?
no.
But you are here, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we all start from there. So if this can happen, and you are a live example, and so are we, so then what you think is your goal, if that is an impossibility, does it feel like an impossibility to you now, thinking that this has already happened? No, right? Because
No.
my reasoning is limited, right? And Sri Aurobindo says that not by reasoning was this world created, and not by reasoning can the soul be realized. Right? So if something in me tells me, तेरे से नहीं होगा, yeah, this is impossible, I have to just say, कि, हाँ, I know this is all you know, but I know more. So I have to say that for me to be open to more, because there is more. Right? So it's an evolution out of material inconscience to consciousness and on towards the divine consciousness. This is not where I stay, right? And this is why Sri Aurobindo came in the body, to pull the higher consciousness so that my divinity, right, can be realized. Because this is a temporary being and there's further growth that needs to happen. So on towards the divine consciousness, from ignorance to divine knowledge, from darkness through half lights to light. So if I today am a half light, I can either say, oh, I'm darkness. I was darkness. I've just come from darkness. How can I become full light, right? Or I can say, see, I was darkness and I'm half light and I have to become light. That is my destiny. So when Mother says divine victory is certain, she's saying that, oh, you are the light, and of course you'll become the light. There is no other way. So my thoughts, my sentences, my words have to reflect that, right? Yeah.
You know, when I'll give like a really uh, earthly example. You know, let's say we are traveling somewhere and we ask somebody that, how, like, I'm going this to this place. Can you give me the direction? And he'll say, go straight and take a right and then take a left. And we'll go straight, take a right, and then we'll, like, at least I'll not say we, at least I will ask someone else, ki, I'm going to this place. Can I take a left in front? And although this is a just, earthly example, regular people and all, let's say the divine is telling me that, take this path, take this path. And, I still remember the lines, ma'am, that, have more faith than there are drops in the ocean. And that was the answer to all my, questions. Because, like, I'm not saying there is enough faith yet, but there is an aspiration for that amount of faith. And when that amount of faith comes, then then the ground is already, like, the ground automatically forms. I hope I'm trying to explain it correctly, but I think personally for me, I think I say, I think faith is where I take a step back, because, I don't know, I try to reason a lot. I try to, do this. I use science a lot. This limited science, not the broader science, the limited science. And I'd say, how is this possible? Even this small doubt, if I entertain in my head, that how is this possible? That stops me from, that I think it's a small doubt, but I'll come back in line. But again, I think that is why, Monica ma'am, and you always tell that don't go back to that, don't go there, don't go there. So yeah, like, to have that immense faith can be the only solution. But to have that immense faith, I think, I think this Annapurna ji I met day before yesterday. She said, she told me that to have immense faith is to tell the mother that I know nothing, I don't even know you, but I know that whatever you're doing is good for me. So, yeah, yeah.
Yes, Shagan, I think you have hit the nail on the head. It's our faith, it's our lack of faith. Although we say, oh, come on, me, I really go down very well. But whenever there is a doubt, whenever we are identifying with the small, if there's worrying, there's anxiety, there's anything, and mother has said so many times, right, that if you are in despair, tell yourself, I'm being insincere. And so many things she has said about this. Even, when we had taken up that passage in the sunlit path where she was speaking to, Mr. Johar, who had founded the Dedi ashram. She said that any time if you're feeling any doubt or there is sadness, just tell yourself, like, the circumstances don't matter, but just tell yourself that my surrender is yet not complete. I'm still doubting. Ye do ke nahi do, right? So that is there. So good to see it. And yeah. So thank you for sharing. Yeah. And just to say that all our examples, Jagan, are earthly examples. So I know you have backgrounds of space, but still, that is the convention we follow. So thank you for sharing the example. Yeah. So just reading is because it feels beautiful to read it again, that it is an evolution out of material inconscience to consciousness and on towards the divine consciousness, from ignorance to divine knowledge, from darkness through half lights to light, from death to immortality, from suffering to the divine bliss. If I'm standing and suffering, but if my eyes are on the bliss, yes, right now it's paining, but I know it's good for me. I know it's taking me where something helps, something in me knows, and that helps me in the stability in walking on that path. So suffering is due first to the ignorance. So now he's talking about suffering. It's due to first, it's because there's ignorance. Again, what you was sharing about faith, it falls here, right? That I'm ignorant, I don't have faith. And secondly, to the separation of the individual consciousness from the divine consciousness and being. That's the reason why we suffer. That's the reason why we feel we need something to complete me. But rather than seeking the divine, who appears nowhere to be seen materialistically, I keep looking for people, places, things, titles, money, possessions, thinking they will complete me. But the true suffering is because of the separation of the individual consciousness from the divine consciousness and being. A separation which is itself created by the ignorance. When that ceases, when one lives completely in the divine and no more in one separated smaller self, then only suffering can altogether cease. So without that, hoga nahi, but it will have to be done if I want to not suffer anymore. Maybe I'm not able to do it, but at least knowing that this is where I need to be, I can aspire for that. And that too helps me a lot. Even it feels case mein hai कि it's just an aspiration. So it's all, yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just have some work, so I'll leave a little early.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you, Chaitanya. So I was just about to say that it's 9 and although it's mid para, but because there's still more and we can, just end here today. Again, it's a good topic, a topic that we must give the due attention to. So any last comments or anything before we end today? Any reflections, grievances, disagreement?
Yeah, it's a very positive thoughts or reflection, I could say. Especially the good thing what I find from this discussion is that we try to connect with our inner selves, inmost self. That is something we call. Otherwise, day to day routine work totally different. That way, it is very positive thing to.
Yeah.
Certainly, like reflection, as you keep telling, is important. And yes, end of the day, like it is better sooner we realize what is temporary, what is permanent. Then naturally, we get better life and we can be at peace, something like that. Then probably all those kind of negative emotions will start diminishing, for example. Typical concept of hurry, the hurry worry curry is the English adage. Because first we eat spicy food, then we this are it's side of connected for what food we eat and then thinking process and action. That is how like we can change kind of sattvic life. That extent is very positive. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Pranavji. And I really appreciate, this is the second session, if I am not wrong, and the way you share, I find that very motivating and I thank you for that. Yeah. And what you shared, the way you started, that how we connect within, it's so beautiful. In schools which are based on mother's philosophy, they teach kids really early, that andar wala dost. So the psychic being they refer to as andar wala dost, and they help the child connect with the andar wala dost at very young age of 5, 6. So how beautiful it is if the connection is established so early. Yeah, thank you. Anything more? Anybody?
No, just that the passages are very good today as well. I mean, the ones we went through, and I guess it had a connect from last week. I mean, what we discussed last week. I mean, something similar to what we discussed, and
Yeah, what
like
is
you said,
one thing, Cyrus, that you liked in the passages today so that we can all take it home with us?
I mean, I guess something on the lines of, in what Jagannath shared, I guess you're aware that, even I lost my parents, during that, COVID time.
Yeah.
And so I guess when I at least this week, for some reason, I mean, my thoughts kept going back to that. Uh, but, about, nothing is permanent kind of thing, where we did mention that, we are also in line, and so that is something that, I know, I mean, but there are still times, or there are still, instances where, you keep going back, even though that, nothing is permanent, we are all temporary, so, and, coming from last week, that, push yourself a little more, rather than, uh, we ourselves kind of push us back. So, something on those lines where you keep discussing within yourself also, so a lot of good learnings, I would think, from that point.
Thank you, Cyrus.
Sure.
Yeah, Saraswati ji, anything, any comment, anything from you, anything that you had resonated with today, if you would like to share?
No, mom, actually today my mother's death anniversary.
Oh,
Just 1 year, whole day I just remembering all these things, and that's why I attended this session, and I'm just feeling something different in our side.
thank you for joining. Thank you. I know it's very tough to even listen to these things when one is in the middle of it. So thank you for your bravery and courage and joining us. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Yes, I will.
Yeah, sorry. So I mean, I shared what I felt. Anything else you feel that, we should take forward? I mean, from these two sessions. I mean, I know we'll have one more on this, but I mean, anything further that you feel that we should do probably in a small way, more regularly. I mean,
Yes, Iris, I think, in general, something that has, for me, it's very easy, right? Because I have gone through something like a near-death experience. So I've seen it up close and personal. It's not just a theory for me, right? So something that I do that really helps me is what, again, Mingyur Rinpoche, what he was suggesting was that keep reminding myself that any day, any moment, whenever I meet people like I was sharing, when I'm saying goodbye, I do bow down, and if I can physically or if I can't, in my heart at least, and I thank them for the beauty they have gotten in my life and how, because of them, there is more joy and expansion. So I always, no, I think always would be a lie, but most of the times, it is a final goodbye. It is a final goodbye. You know how they say कि जिंदगी रहेगी तो फिर मिलेंगे types. So that does add a lot of life. I feel a lot of depth in these interactions because sadly, I see, which is very sad, really, that I take everything and everyone for granted. And then when somebody goes or something big happens, I'm like, oh my God, but this was never supposed to happen. But why? Obviously, it was waiting to happen. And then I cry that, Array, I didn't get enough time, or I should have, or this or that. But the time I had, the question is, what did I do with it? Was I even there? So I think just this thing of being more present to all my blessings is something really big for me. And it does bring a lot of joy and depth in my everyday. and I keep forgetting. And then I get wake up calls and reminders and thappads, thankfully, because there is grace and there is God. And I get up again that, oh, remember, remember how in Savitri they say that, remember why thou camest. So he's being told, right, that remember. I think it was Narad, I think maybe I don't know, telling it to Savitri's mother when she was crying, okay, what will happen to my daughter? He was saying, remember why we have all come. It was, great, this growth and transition, and I could be wrong who it was said to, but that's what I remember. So death kind of helps in remembering, because death is an ending, right? Okay, it might end. It will end. So let me relish, let me be grateful for who I am, for what I have in me, around me, with me. That really adds dimensions to my connections and my life. Yeah, a very long answer to a very small question. My
No, it was
apologies.
really very well put, actually, very nicely put, and I totally agree with you. It goes back to something that also heard that when you get up in the morning, look in the mirror and ask that say if it was your last day, what all would you do, or what are the things you would do differently? I
Yeah.
mean, that also, I mean, it's amazing. That really works very well too when you do that. And similar to what you said is, every day there are so many people who play a part in our lives, or in a small way, and you have to, we take it for granted that, oh, tomorrow we'll meet and I'll tell him. But I think the point being that whatever it is, you appreciate at that moment only, or you do at that moment, and finish it off, rather than saying this will come tomorrow, or next time I'll do this, or I will say this. So even a basic appreciation. So I think that's a very valid point. So you don't have that many regrets. End of the day, you finish it at that time.
Yeah. I'm reminded there's a movie called About Time. So let me just see if I can. Yeah, so this is a movie about, maybe I'll share it next time we have really gone beyond, but it's about a person who can travel back, keep traveling back in time. So he goes back and he corrects, or he, does things his way. Once he has done them, he goes back and keeps changing. And then there is an ending scene in which he says very beautifully that how now I've stopped going back because I'm living every moment fully. And he shows that transition. So I'll share that next time. So yeah, thank you again for sharing, Cyrus. So I guess we'll end here. So thank you so much, Umaji. Welcome I think this is your first session, and happy to have you. So
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. So just thanking Grace, thanking Divine before we officially close it. So thanking ourselves for the courage to face these terms, these realities, which we often like to ignore, avoid, pretend it's not there. And it takes a lot of courage to say, yes, I want to know more about it. So grateful for that. So yeah, we'll end the session here, and we'll be taking up this topic again next week. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.